About 4,000 years ago, deep in the heart of the world's jungles, a civilization rose that counted the stars without modern telescopes. Their mathematical calculations were so precise that even today, NASA is astonished by how closely their numbers match. With such knowledge, such power, and such architecture, after building pyramids in great cities, how did they suddenly disappear behind a curtain of mystery? Where did they go? Why did their calendar become linked to the prophecy that the world would end in 2012? And why were their beautiful cities so deeply lost that even today people struggle to find them on modern maps? This was the Maya civilization, a civilization consumed by rituals of blood and human sacrifice, yet also one of the most intelligent civilizations in human history. How did such a great civilization begin? And how did it suddenly collapse? The story begins in 1839. At that time, words like Maya and Aztec were almost empty names to much of the world. It was believed that no one could survive in the ancient jungles of Central America. There was malaria, venomous snakes, and death. But an English adventurer, John Lloyd Stephens, and an artist, Frederick Catherwood, entered this dangerous jungle. Local villagers had told them stories of old stone palaces hidden deep in the forest, stories no one believed. As they moved through the jungle, they came upon ruins buried so deep that even sunlight could barely reach the ground. At every step, unknown danger waited for them. Night after night, insects swarmed their camp, and strange cries echoed through the darkness. They slept with fear beside them, because something unseen always seemed to move beyond the edge of the firelight. Then, when they cleared away the moss and vines that had covered the stones for centuries, they saw that it was not an ordinary rock. It was a carved pillar, covered in writing from an unknown language. And when they looked up, they saw not just ruins, but something enormous, a massive stone pyramid rising from the jungle floor. This was not just a forgotten monument. It was a lost city. A city as grand as the pyramids of Egypt, yet hidden from the world. That discovery shocked the world. It was not a legend. It was one of the greatest lost civilizations in human history, the Maya. The Maya civilization spread across what is now Mexico, Guatemala, Belize, and Honduras. At the same time that Harappa and Mohenjo-Daro flourished in the Indian subcontinent and the cities of Mesopotamia were rising, around 2000 BC, nearly 4,000 years ago, another civilization was rising deep within the jungles of the Americas. For a long time, archaeologists believed the Maya had only built scattered temples where small groups came to worship and then left. It was thought their population was small, but that belief was wrong. For more than 100 years, archaeologists dug through the jungle searching for answers. Then, in 2018, science brought a new technology that could see through the forest canopy. It was called LiDAR, light detection and ranging. Scientists mounted LiDAR scanners on aircraft and flew over the jungles of northern Guatemala. The machine fired millions of laser pulses down to the earth. Those pulses returned data from the ground below and created a three-dimensional map. When computers processed the data and stripped away the trees, the image that appeared stunned scientists. What had looked like endless jungle was actually a vast ancient city. More than 60,000 structures were hidden beneath the forest. Buildings, roads, terraces, walls, and pyramids. What we once thought was home to only 2 or 3 million people was suddenly revealed to have supported nearly 10 million. That meant the Maya civilization was not small. It was enormous. At its height, nearly 10 million people may have lived there, more than many nations in Europe at the same time. But even after that discovery, one great question remained. How did 10 million people survive here? Nearly every great civilization in the ancient world was born beside rivers. The Indus Valley civilization rose beside the Indus. Mesopotamia rose beside the Tigris and Euphrates. Egypt rose beside the Nile. But the Maya did not. Much of their civilization rose hundreds of kilometers inland. There were no great rivers across much of their empire. The land was made of limestone, and limestone does not hold water. Rainwater vanished into the ground. The soil was thin and often poor for farming. So how did 10 million people survive in a place where water should have been scarce? How did they grow crops? How did they build cities in land that should have been impossible for civilization? To answer that, we must go deeper into the Maya world. Long before the Maya, during the Ice Age, sea levels were far lower than they are today. The water between Asia and North America had frozen and receded, creating a land bridge. Across that frozen path, human hunters crossed from Asia into a new world. For thousands of years, their descendants moved south. They crossed the plains of North America, the mountains of Mexico, and continued until they reached Central America and the Yucatan Peninsula. From above, the Yucatan looked like paradise: green forests, fruit, and endless life. But beneath that beauty was a trap. The land was made of limestone. When rain fell, the stone absorbed it. Rivers did not flow across the surface. They ran underground. To the people who first arrived, this jungle looked rich, but it was a deadly illusion. So why did they stay? Because they found the doorway to the underworld. While searching for water, they discovered deep openings in the earth. When they looked down, they saw something shining in the darkness below. Water. Fresh, clear, and abundant water. These natural wells were called cenotes. Because the land was made of limestone, parts of the ground had collapsed over underground rivers, opening vast circular wells to the water below. To the Maya, these were not just water sources. They were sacred. They believed these deep wells were entrances to the underworld. That belief changed everything. While much of the ancient world built along rivers, the Maya built their settlements around cenotes. They had found water, and with water, they could stay. But surviving the jungle was still a war. The forest was so dense that clearing it without iron tools seemed impossible. So they turned to fire. They burned sections of jungle, used the ash to enrich the soil, and slowly carved farmland out of the wilderness. This was one of their greatest discoveries. The land of Yucatan, harsh and deceptive on the surface, could be transformed into fertile ground. Their population began to grow. They were no longer wanderers. They had water, they had food, they had land. But they still lacked one thing the rest of the ancient world depended on: iron. While other civilizations forged tools and weapons from bronze and iron, the Maya had only stone. The Maya had no iron, no steel, no great beasts to pull heavy loads, no oxen, no horses. And yet, they built massive cities, towering temples, and pyramids of stone. How? Their answer was obsidian. Obsidian is volcanic glass, a black natural stone formed by fire. When broken, its edge becomes sharper than many modern surgical blades. The Maya used obsidian to cut, shape, and carve stone with astonishing precision. But cutting stone was only the beginning. The real challenge was moving it. Some of these stones weighed hundreds of tons. The Maya had no wheeled transport for construction, no carts, and no animals strong enough to drag such weight. So they turned to physics and human strength. They used logs as rollers. They pulled stone with ropes. Through coordination, leverage, and raw human labor, They moved stone across the jungle.
Then came one of their greatest innovations, Maya cement. By burning limestone, they created a kind of plaster and cement so strong that it hardened like stone. With it, they coated temples, walls, and pyramids in smooth layers of white and red. Their cities once gleamed in color beneath the sun. And these structures were not only strong, they were intelligent. If you stand before the pyramid of Chichen Itza and clap your hands, the echo returns with a sound like the sacred cry of a jungle bird. Modern engineers were stunned when they discovered that the steps had been designed to reflect sound in this way. The pyramids of Egypt were tombs for kings, but Maya pyramids were more than tombs. They were also instruments of time. The pyramid of Chichen Itza was built like a giant calendar. Each of its 4 stairways has 91 steps. Together, with the platform at the top, they total 365, the number of days in a solar year. On the equinox, sunlight casts a shadow like a serpent descending from the sky. The Maya were not only builders, they were mathematicians, astronomers, and masters of time. Without telescopes, they tracked planets and stars with astonishing precision. They used a base 20 number system, understood zero, and tracked Venus so accurately that their calculations differed from modern measurements by only seconds. And the prophecy of 2012 was never about the end of the world. To the Maya, time was not a straight line. It was a cycle. Their calendar did not predict destruction. It marked the end of one great age and the beginning of another.